Buckeye Talk back with our outrageous predictions for Ohio State's upcoming game against Tulsa. I'm Nathan Baird from cleveland.com, along with Doug Lesmerises and Stephen Means. None of us outrageously predicted Ohio State to lose its first regular season game since 2018 last week. Stephen, what is your outrageous prediction for this week's game?
That would be a ridiculously outrageous prediction for this week. Mine is going to focus on the run game. It's based off what they did in 2018, the first game I covered coming off of a loss. That Purdue game 2 weeks before they played Nebraska, Dwayne Haskins threw the ball 74 times because they, quite frankly, had to rely on his arm because the running game wasn't working and the defense sucked, which sounds eerily familiar to what the Oregon game was. They couldn't get the running game going and the defense didn't do its job as well. So CJ Stroud ended up throwing 54 passes, which is just too much for any quarterback to be throwing in a Ryan Day offense. And in that situation, their solution to that was, we are going to really emphasize the run game against Nebraska. And as a result, J.K. Dobbins had 161 yards and 23 carries after having like 12 carries the week before that. And Mike Weber followed up with 9 carries for 91 yards. They really emphasized the run game almost to the point that they kind of abandoned the passing game a little bit. It was the only game all season that Dwayne Haskins didn't have at least 20 completions. And I think that's like the first question I ever asked him was, hey, did you feel like the passing game suffered the week before because of how much emphasis they put on the running game? He said, yeah, they did, because they really wanted to get that rolling. I think they might try that again. So it's kind of a two-parter. It's Ohio State runs for 300 yards, but CJ Stroud is responsible for 100 of them. I think he has the ability to run. He showed that against Michigan State last year in one of his few snaps on that 48-yard run, but he hasn't necessarily been willing to do it this season. So it's a combination of, it's one thing to be able to do it. It's another thing you have to be willing to do that and put that on tape, and Tulsa seems like a prime opportunity for him to do that. So as I said, 300 rushing yards for Ohio State with CJ Stroud being responsible for 100 of them.
Well, we should really talk about these before we do them, because that's exactly what I was going to talk about too, was Ohio State coming out and reestablishing the run. And I was talking to Garrett Wilson about this tonight and about how they talk about those passes out into the flats as extended handoffs, and getting him and Chris Olave the ball. I think that makes sense. I know why they do it, but I think they need to come out and establish that physical running tone again. So right now, Ohio State ranked 66th nationally, 164.5 yards per game. I was going to say they were going to double that, 329 yards in this game. And they've run the ball a total. They have 57 attempts. I would definitely take the under on CJ Stroud getting 100 yards. So I don't know that they want to expose him in a game like this to that much running. I don't know that that makes a lot of sense. I think they're going to give the ball to Mayan Williams a lot. I think they're going to give the ball to Trevion Henderson a lot. I think you're probably going to see some Master Teague in the second half if this game goes according to plan. You may even see some other guys in there. I think it's going to be 329 or more yards on the ground and a lot to those top 2 running backs. Doug, what is your outrageous prediction? Hopefully not about running the ball.
So, yeah, maybe we need to have meetings before we do these. My outrageous prediction is that we will have 3 100-yard rushers in this game. Mayan Williams, Trevion Henderson, and Deneric Prince for Tulsa. Because I think Ohio State, I agree with everything you guys said, established the run. I also don't know that Ohio State's going to stop the run. Deneric Prince had like 150 or so last week. He had 14 for 151 against UC Davis in their opener. Now they lost that game. That's like a bad loss. UC Davis. I don't know. Is that the Banana Slugs? I don't even know. He was 16 for 34 last week against Oklahoma State, but he was pretty good. He's a Texas A&M transfer. He sat out 2019 after transferring from Texas A&M. He had some pretty good games in 2020. They played Cincinnati in the American Championship game in 2020. 9 carries for 73. That's pretty good. He had 15 for 109 against South Florida last year. He had 14 for 82 against Oklahoma State last year. I think he's their guy. And I just don't know that Ohio State's going to magically stop that. And then I agree with everything you guys said about establishing the run game. In 2018, when it was J.K. Dobbins and Mike Weber, they had one game. Steven, your point, they were really close to having 2 100-yard rushers that game. One time that year against Michigan State did they both actually hit 100 rushing yards. The last time Ohio State had 2 100-yard rushers in the same game was Michigan State last year when it was Justin Fields and Trey Sermon. So I was like, I mean, it's not that unusual. But I'll throw in the Tulsa side of it too. But obviously we all see sort of this game offensively for Ohio State having a common theme.
By the way, worth noting here, Tulsa allows 2.52 yards per carry. That ranks 25th in the nation. They've done a decent job stopping the run so far this year. Ohio State ranks 115th in the nation at stopping the run. So that of the two sides of what Doug is picking, and maybe the Ohio State side allowing 100 rushing yards might be the safer side, but I think Ohio State is not going to come out and have a disparity in plays between rush and pass the way they did last week against Oregon. I think they're going to come back and get back to more of their the balance shifting back and towards the number of plays called on the run side. Get the text 614-350-3315. Get all your pregame intel, your in-game analysis. Send us your post-game questions Saturday against Tulsa at Ohio Stadium.